Hello, my name is Sandy Adomaitis, the social media director for the Page International Screenwriting Awards, and your host for the Writers Hangout, a podcast that celebrates the many stages of writing, from inspiration to the first draft, revising, getting a project made, and everything in between. We'll talk to the best and the brightest in the entertainment industry and create a space where you can hang out, learn from the pros, and have fun. Hey writers, this is Sandy. Thank you for spending time with me. It's a lovely, cool evening here in Studio City, the heart of the San Fernando Valley. Get ready. We have a very special guest, Leo Andronov, a screenwriter, director, novelist, dramatist, and author of First Draft, Practical Steps. Leo was born in Russia, but now calls LA home. In Russia, he won the top award at the Eurasia International Dramatist Competition, one of the country's premier playwriting contests, and he wrote and directed his first feature film, 29th Kilometer. His book, First Draft, Practical Steps, recently became an Amazon #1 bestseller in playwriting and scriptwriting. Let's start the show. Leo, thank you so much for joining us on the Writers Hangout.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really honored being here.
Leo, bravo. Great job on this book. It was such an easy, clean, fast read, and you learned so much on every single page. Practical stuff that a screenwriter needs to know about. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I did a whole dissertation there. Could you please tell us about yourself and why you wrote this book?
First of all, I'm a Russian dude living in LA. Probably you can hear it. So I'm a writer and director. I do write scripts both in English and in Russian. I do write books in English and in Russian. I used to be a playwright, so I started as a playwright. So I used to write for theater. Then I was a musician. I was in advertising. I did this and that. So I have some experience, and being a filmmaker with such a diverse background helps me to maybe make my scripts a little bit different than a reader expects. I arrived to LA in 2012 at age 36. I still here doing stuff, and now my book is out and I'm very happy about it. This is my first book published in English. And why did I write it? Well, because I stuck with my novel. It gave me so much trouble, so I was really overwhelmed and I felt angry, and I switched myself into writing a book for screenwriters. Why? Because before my master classes in Russia, my students asked me to do it. So I was thinking first about preparing a new master class about finishing the first draft, but it turned out to be a book.
And we are better for it. Now, why do you think many screenwriters never complete their first draft? And this is what your book is all about, that first draft. And do you have any solutions for screenwriters out there who can't finish their first draft?
The first thing what I need to say is the reason why they stopped doing this is because every single book on screenwriting teaches you and encourages you to write a perfect script, to write an Oscar-winning screenplay or something like that. And that's the expectation every aspiring writer has in their minds when they started. So if you expect to have at the end a brilliant screenplay and in the middle working on it, you realize it's not so good. It's really frustrating experience, right?
Yes.
So that's why so many people, when they're, for example, stuck in the middle, or they realize their character's not so developed, or the story isn't so great, they got scared and they drop it. So nobody really talks about first draft as a crucial first step, which shouldn't be perfect. The main thing is to finish it. When you have it, then you can proceed to stage 2, 3, so draft 2, 3, and the later drafts will be much easier. Nobody really explains it to the new writers. And so I remember that feeling. And I try to explain how it works for a reader. So the solution is to understand that the main thing is to finish your first draft. It doesn't need to be perfect. That's my answer.
What a great, simple answer. Finish it. You're going to be able to build off of it. And that is going to be a great feeling for you. Now, in your opinion, what are the biggest myths about screenwriting that holds writers back?
I would say there's two big myths. What I really dislike or hate, I would say. The first one is the most probably common. You know this notion, and every single writer heard it many times, which says you must write every day. You can find it in every single book. You must write every day in blogs, in like on even on Reddit. You can find this notion over and over again. But the thing, do you really need to write every day? My answer is that this notion is misconception. You must write every day. You should write every day to maintain a skill of writing. That is true. But do you really need to work on your story every day? I don't think so. If you start forcing yourself, it hurts your creative process. You must write only when you cannot do otherwise. So, when you have an idea and it's brimming into you, and you must tell it to and put it on paper, then yes, please do it. Like 18 hours a day, 16, 20, it doesn't matter. But if you start to force yourself, I see it every time. Many writers do it. So they sitting in front of the computer, staring at the blank page, and after several hours they have like probably a couple of sentences written. That because they are afraid of not doing it, because everybody say, okay, you must write. If you don't write, you're not a writer. That is not true. The writing process is more than that. So you can write walking around your couch or in your room and thinking about your story. It's still a writing process. You can be at a grocery store buying bananas and thinking about your characters. That's a writing process as well. I keep saying you don't need to sit in front of the computer and trying to type something. Just let it go. Just leave it in your head, because your story, if you're working on it, it's still in your mind. Even if you do your day job, you're still thinking about your story. So that's not necessary to hurt yourself and force yourself to do what you don't need to do.
It's too much, especially if you have a job and you have kids. You're just going through things in life. And I also love that you highlighted while you're at the supermarket, you're thinking about your script, you come up with a great idea, you get home, life gets away from you, and you can't get to your computer to the next day. Great. Pat yourself on the back for that.
And the second myth, let me tell you this. You probably heard it as well. So start with a log line. Wow, that's the thing what I really, really don't like. Because creating a story or writing your screenplay is a creating a world. You need to build your own new world. You need to develop characters. You need to create relationship between them. You need to put so much into their souls, and you have to come up with the ideas of scenes and create so much to fill this world. But when you start and somebody tells you, you need to write a log line for this, you don't have a world to describe, right?
Right.
It's really frustrating for a new writer. And another thing, you need to understand when you're going to use your log line. And any writer use it only when they start pitching it, when you're ready. And you're doing it only when your script is done. So just focus on writing the story first, finishing your first draft. Then it would be much easier for you to come up with 2 sentences of a logline. Do you agree?
Exactly. You write about finding your story, what you want to write about, and finding your voice, your unique voice. So let's make up a scenario. And we have a writer, and her name is Sally.
Okay.
And Sally's a first time writer, and she wants to write a bank heist movie because that's what her and her dad used to watch when she was growing up. They watched the Ocean 11 movies,
Okay.
and that's all she's got. What can Sally do to tell that story? She's not even sure she has a story. What does she do?
Okay, first of all, Sally needs to find the deepest emotion. First, she needs to recall the moments of watching these films and ask herself what was the most exciting part of that moment was for her. Because when you say it to me, I feel she wants to write not necessarily a bank robbery movie. Maybe she wants to dive into the emotions of her relationships with her father. And
Yes.
maybe she has more materials for her next script or first script when she starts studying their relationships. Because, like, for example, it's okay to start with something. It's fine. Working on a screenplay, it's like a journey. So you're discovering something. And she may start working on the heist movie, but if she has more emotions and more feelings towards the relationships with her father, maybe she will switch sooner or later into creating a story between them, how they watch movies, how they interact with each other. And maybe for Sally, it would be more interesting and more touching. And at the end of the day, it can be completely different screenplay, completely different story with her own touch, because her relationship with her father, this is something what is unique. So we need to write about unique things. We need to write about our own experiences because there's truth into it. If we start, and we're going back to your previous question, if we read a book about writing screenplays and we see everybody's talking about Titanic or Die Hard movies, and we want to start with something big, this is probably the moment when we're going to fail because we don't know that world yet. So it's better to describe and create a world what we know. So every single writer writes about themselves because it's easier and it's more truthful. That's my take on it.
Yes. It could be Sally finds out her father is a bank heist guy
Maybe.
back when she was a baby.
He went for a job every night. So it's an
Yeah.
introspective. Can you imagine the story about the daughter of a bank robber? He's absent. She sees him like only minutes in a day. He's hiding all the time. And if we're focusing about the little girl's feelings towards her father, and for a little girl, it doesn't matter who he is, what work does he do. It's about her father and their relationship. That's a really unique angle.
Let's talk about the art of observation. Now, Sally is in Starbucks, and you mention that a good writer really has to be observant. So Sally is in Starbucks and she's going to practice her observation skills. What does she do? I mean, what can you do by getting a cup of coffee that's going to enrich your writing?
Sitting in a coffee shop, you can see so many different people. And as a writer, you should be curious about their interactions to each other. So, for example, let's take the process of buying a cup of coffee. Every single person does it in different way. So being an observer sitting at the coffee shop, you can see how people ordering coffee, how they interact with barista, how do they greet them, are they friendly or are they demanding, are they open or are they trying to hide something inside. So it's a great place for observation as any other public place. So we need, as writers, we need to kind of love people. We need to understand them. If we know how to observe a person, that will be easier for us to develop a character.
And also, if you're at a dinner party and you go, oh God, I got stuck next to the guy who works at the DWP. I have nothing in common. Well, one of your characters may have that job. Talk to that person,
Right.
find out about their job, and you both will have fun.
And another thing, it's very important for a writer to go out and see our people because they constantly telling stories. Most of the writers are sitting in their rooms coming up with ideas for their next book or a screenplay. But there is so many stories out there. Just listen to people. And that's a huge part of the material that you can use in your stories.
You sharpen your observation skills. You had an exercise in your book.
Yes, I do. For example, sitting in a coffee shop, observing people, you can write down 5 significant things about any person you see. That would help you to shape your characters, right? So if you start noticing different things in every person, so at least 5 distinct things about a person would help you to understand who he or she is. And like, let's take a look at their haircut. Let's take a look at their wardrobe because it says so much about the person, right? Because our wardrobe is like kind of a message to a world. Are we delivering something to outer world or are we trying to hide something? Take a look at their hands. Take a look at the tattoos if they have. So much you can pick up from just one single person. And it will give you the understanding of the personality, right?
Yes. Now, let's stick with Sally. We like Sally. She's chosen her story, the bank heist, and she's figuring out her unique voice. She's observing the world. She's looking at her own life. And you suggest creating a file on your computer or a file folder in your desk. Why?
Okay, so my idea is to start creating the folders in your computer as the vessels for the material you're going to fill into them. So basically, I'm giving kind of like a structure for a future project, and it's really helpful for a new writer to organize their process. Because if you see a folder which is still empty, you have to fill it. Kind of creating the skeleton of a future project for a writer. So I'm helping them to understand what they need to do. And if a folder empty, that needs to be filled.
We can't really go, into detail about everything that's going to go in that file, but can you help us and Sally? What might you put in that file?
Right. So I see writers put everything on their computer, like all the material related to the project, and it creates a mess. I think the order helps a writer to make the process easier. For example, you can have a folder which you call script, and it will have a folder for your screenwriting software. It will have a folder for a treatment, for a synopsis, for a logline. So in this folder, you will have many subfolders. And for example, you will need to store somewhere in your folder pictures. So create a folder and name it pics and put there like mood pictures, like research pictures. There's a big chapter about working with images during the writing your screenplay. For example, you need to collect the articles about the subject, and you will need to read many of them. So create a folder for articles, create a folder for future pitch deck. You will need to have it, or a poster. So that's, as I told you, it's like a vessel's what you need to fill with material.
What is Field of Dreams? If you make it, they will come. As creatives, we're always looking around and borrowing. It's like you went, oh, I love the way they transitioned into scenes in blah, blah, blah movie. So you might take a still image of that. And that way you won't forget when you're creating and when you're sitting there and you're going, oh my goodness, I don't even know what this is about. Go into that image file and just look at what gave you chills.
Exactly. So
Yes.
the chills is right word. When you have chills, you on the right path. This is the indicator what any writer should use, right? If you're excited about something, this topic or scene or just image should be in your script.
Yes. Some of the great topics that you include, you start with what is a script? Then you explain from a department head's perspective how they interpret and perform their duties. I loved this section. Can you share a couple examples of that? It will help the writers understand why you format it a certain way, because the prop master is taking your script as a blueprint.
Correct. Yes. So the idea that the script is a document is very important. And I feel that any screenwriter should know the process of filmmaking. It will help them to format the script properly, because every single department head reads the script differently. As you mentioned, the prop master will take a look at the objects characters use in the scenes. But for a cinematographer, it's very interesting and important to understand where the story takes place, what the sources of light will be there. Is it day or is it night? So even mundane things for us, like interior, kitchen, day. This is so much crucial information for some department heads, because for a cinematographer, day for night or night for night, it's a very, very important thing to know, right? Are we shooting on location or are we shooting on a sound stage? That's what production designer, for example, thinking about. So as a writer, we need to understand what we not just putting the story on a page. We creating a document, a blueprint for a future film that needs to be useful for department heads. That's the perspective what probably I haven't seen in the screenwriting books before.
No, and I love that. And just a side note, if you say 23 sheep, they're going to get you 23 sheep. So if you were thinking, just a couple would have done.
Right.
Yeah, you're getting 23 sheep. So yes, I really, really love that. And I also found your take on theme so clear and concise. I mean, theme, that is one of the things that trips writers up a lot. Now, what is theme? Because poor Sally, she's not even sure what the theme of her screenplay is. Is that bad?
No, not at all. And I feel her because I've been there too. When I was starting, especially at the film school, like everybody was like, oh, the theme of this film is so great. And I was like sitting there like frustrated, and I was pretending I understand what they're talking about. So this is what the theme is. The theme, it's basically, it's what the story about. That's the core of a story. And it can be a very simple idea. Like, we need to love children. We must take care of our family. That's a like simple notion, but it gives us a kind of a compass. It's a compass for a writer to check the direction. If I'm writing about love, even one word can be a theme, like love. I'm writing about love. And if I start shifting somewhere else, if I, like the first part of my screenplay is about love, and then suddenly I turned and I started to write about something else, something different, thinking about my theme will help me to understand that I'm shifting. So I need to go back to my core idea. So it's a heart of the story, basically. It's too hard to explain in a few words, but like the compass is the best probably comparison and best image for a writer explaining the theme. Writing the screenplay is a discovery, so you may discover it later on.
Right. There's something inside you, and we're going back to that feeling that Sally had.
Mhm.
she was watching heist movies with her dad. It's probably whatever that was, it might end up being, as you said, kind of the theme of her screenplay. And she might not know that to the very end. And then, as you say, and one of the whole points of your whole book is if you get it done, that first draft, you can go back and layer in more theme.
Exactly. For
Yes.
example, just a few days ago, I finished the first draft of my new screenplay. And it's messy. I gotta tell you, I kind of hate it because I'm frustrated with the story. I don't think it works yet, and I'm angry on myself. But at the same time, I'm stopping myself every time, saying, "Dude, it's just the first draft. You will find the solution. You have your characters. You can develop them. You can put more tension into it. You can find a new angle. What I need to do now is just to wait until I find this solution. And only after that, I will jump on my chair and start rewriting it."
Yes, there is so much in this book, so much good material. And if that's not enough, you explore what should happen in your acts, such as introducing characters, protagonists versus antagonist dynamics, conflict, humor, structure. Now, we can't reveal everything, but give us 5 essential elements that you must include in the first act that you feel are essential for the first act. And the writers out there can write these down, put them on their board, and just look up at them every once in a while.
So, in the first act, you need to introduce your character, right? Because you have to show the viewers who is it about. We need to see the main character. We need to understand the world they living in. Because we're creating a world. In the first act, the world should be clear for us.
Yes.
We need to establish their dreams, because a character without a goal, without a dream, is not really interesting. So we need to see what do they want, and we need to see the goals, because without a goal, just the character floating in the story, it's not really interesting. They need to be eager getting something.
Right.
We need the kick, as I say. The kick gives them the push towards their goals.
Yes, I love that you call it the kick. So let's review. We were introducing the character with their dreams, their goals.
We're creating the world, and we creating the situation when we care about the character. This is the fifth element. We need to care about the character, and our job as writers to create a character who is likable for us.
And likable doesn't have to mean that person who might be doing things that aren't very cool.
We should care about them.
Perfect. Next, let's look at humor, my favorite. You mentioned that there's 4 types: situational, character-based, conversational or dialogue-based, and contextual. Can you break those down for us?
Yeah. Situational humor is very simple, and probably the early cinema started showing humor with situational jokes. Like, think of banana peel gag, right? Someone slips on a banana peel and falls, and everybody laughs. So basically, the idea of humiliation a character is in any humorous situation. So that's why situational humor is very simple. The character-based humor is, as it says, based on the character. So when character himself is like laughable, think of Mr. Bean on Benny Hill. So they appear on the screen and we already know it's funny. So just the presence of the character makes the situation funnier. The humor based on dialogue is like works with subtext, with double meanings, we playing with words, we create absurd exchanges, the dialogue, and it creates humor as well. And the contextual humor is when we, for example, we change in the context of the situation. Let's say very famous film Trading Places with Eddie Murphy. When a bomb from the street was put into a luxury environment. So two oligarchs making a bomb as their, worker. And how the character who grew up on the street changes the subtext of the new environment, being himself. So the changing context creates a humorous situation.
If you don't consider yourself very funny, Sally doesn't. She
Mm-hmm.
cannot tell a joke to save her life. Can she learn how to write funny?
To be honest, I think like humor is the hardest part for any writer. Some people just doing it genuinely. They have a talent for it. Us, we trying to learn the basics, and I feel silly. So because I'm not a really a funny guy, and my scripts are humor in my scripts creates a smile, not a laugh, not a laughter. So when you work on your screenplay, I think you have to focus, if you're creating a humorous situation, you have to focus on humiliation and embarrassment. So the more you humiliate your character and the more embarrassment he or she feels, creates the situation is more funny, like funnier.
Also, a good tip for your character being humiliated: give a witness to your character. I've sometimes noticed writers will struggle to write a funny scene when a character is all alone. There is nothing funnier than a character doing something and looking up and seeing somebody watching them.
Exactly.
It's just funnier.
Because it's embarrassment for them, right?
Yes. You have dialogue tips. Can you give us, in your book, can you give us one of your favorite dialogue tips?
So I think writers should keep in mind that people rarely say what they think, and that creates the dialogue more interesting. Because if the character doesn't give a direct answer and tries to hide something, not to tell what they think, it creates a subtext. And dialogue with subtext is always deeper, always more interesting. So, like in real life, we hide what we really think, and there's different reasons for it. We don't want to show our vulnerability, or we trying to show off, or we trying to hide something inside of us. So the subtext gives the dialogue the depth.
Exactly. And this is the simplest example that I can think of. Leo, we're doing an improv. You and I are married. Ask me how I am.
How are you?
Fine.
See? Oh, look, I have a great example for exactly same dialogue. So let's think about two soldiers on a battlefield, and the battle's over. And let's say Jack finds Pete among the dead bodies. Pete is alive, but he is going to die the next minute.
Mm.
And
Oh,
Jack asks Pete, "How are you?" Pete replies, "I'm fine." And we see he's about to die, right? So
mm.
simple dialogue gives us depth. Let's reverse the situation. Jack finds Pete, and Pete asks him, "How are you?" Jack looks back at him, seeing he's going to die, and say, "I'm fine, brother. I'm fine." So just simple words gives us depth because we know the subtext behind it.
Let's skip to the deadline. Any helpful advice on how to deal with deadlines? First of all, if you have a deadline, that probably means you're entering a contest, which is exciting, or you've got a project and you've got to hand it in.
Mhm.
So embrace that. You're ahead of the game. But deadlines scare writers.
That's okay. But that's the main thing for a writer. You must deliver, period. It doesn't matter what happens in your life, you must deliver. So I remember I read a post of my friend. He's a professional screenwriter. And he was able to deliver scripts, even being in a hospital. It doesn't matter. It's like a war. If you want to be a pro, You must deliver.
I could not agree more. I'm going to hang a lantern on that. Vivian Lee, who's been on this podcast, new baby, woke up in the morning, would be feeding her baby and writing her script on her phone. You got to do it.
You gotta do it. Yeah.
What do you think of treatments?
Treatments is a great tool, and it helps you to see the structure of your screenplay on a page. The treatment helps you to see the development of the story very fast. Because what the treatment is, it's basically description of the scene in a couple of sentences, right? And if you have a printout of your treatment with you, you can work on your script in a bus, in a car, on a plane. It's always with you, and you can analyze and you can write your ideas on top of your scenes. So it's a very helpful thing. And another example of using a treatment. Let's say your screenplay is 90 pages, but your treatment will be 20, right? And for some decision makers, it's easier to read 20 pages than 89.
Yes.
I had a situation when I got first money in for a film after my investor read my treatment.
Oh, nice. Nice. We like that. I'm going to call you Joe Esterhaus from now on. I'd like to talk about pitch decks. Now, I came up in a time where if you pitched, you'd leave maybe a one pager, which is even the shorter version than the treatment, just one page, kind of giving the outline. Now, pitch decks I hear about a lot. I'm not a big fan of pitch decks because I feel like it's just an extra step for the writer. You've already spent 6 months writing the script, and now I got to even spoon feed you it more. It makes me angry, but I am in the minority. People love pitch decks, both writers and executives. What's your take on a pitch deck?
I love pitch decks. I love doing that. The thing is, you need to understand that writer nowadays is more than a writer. And if Sally wants to sell her script, she needs to be a producer. She needs to think as a producer. She needs to have tools what producers use, even deep into budgeting and all that unpleasant stuff. So, but the pitch deck is the first thing what you present into the world after writing your scripts, because the pitch deck helps a new person who haven't read your script yet to understand your story, because a pitch deck gives a mood of the story. It gives like a crucial moments like described in text. The visuals helps a lot. So
where does a writer find these visuals? Do they have to hire somebody?
no, you can do it yourself.
So you can
Well,
do it yourself.
first of all, you have a folder with pictures and mood pictures like
Oh, right. You can the file on your computer.
great. Yeah, so you can put a pitch deck in PowerPoint. It's a matter of, I don't know, an hour or two.
Okay. And you're kind of just letting the powers that be, that you are asking for money, that, hey, I not only wrote this screenplay, I know it inside and out. I know the mood. I know the look. I know the tone. I know what audience will want to see this. And you're just putting it into a package.
Right, because you are producer now. That's a thing. That's a new thing for writers. So it's impossible to just to sell your script nowadays. If you want to make it, you have to be a producer. So you build in a package and you start with a script, then pitch deck, then you have your poster, your log line, and many, many other tools what you need to present to people.
Oh, Leo, this is so interesting that you said that about the poster. Now, when I was coming up, this was back when there was the covered wagon.
Mm-hmm.
If there was artwork on the cover of the script, the writer was hiding that maybe the script wasn't as good, but look at this artwork. I'm really good at the artwork. You're saying that's not the way the powers that be look at things anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They'll look at a poster and go, wow, this is vision. I really do see it now. Where before you were only supposed to give the written word and that was your calling card.
Yes.
It's just very different now.
So look, I'm using postcards, for example, for if I'm going for a film festival or something like this. I have a postcard. It's very small. It has a visual on the front and the description on the back, like a small pitch or, like one pager basically. Let's say you drinking a wine in a bar or beer in a bar and you meet a private investor and he asks you, what are you working on? And you say, oh, take a look. And the visuals help you to help this person to understand what your story is about. Because 1 second looking at the poster gives him an impression. He understands the genre, he understands the take, the mood. And then, if it's interesting, he turns the postcard and reads the description. And if it's interesting, if it's catching his eye, you can continue. And that's a moment for you to pitch your story.
Okay, all right. You got me. Pitch decks are important. Every writer should do one. As we're wrapping up here, what is the most common mistakes writers make in the first draft?
Not finishing it.
Hey, I love that you said that. If there's anything Sally is going to walk away with from this interview, from this podcast, is you've got to finish your first draft.
For sure.
You're so way ahead of the game when you do. Are you on social media?
Yes, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere, even TikTok.
Is it your name?
Yeah, Leonid Andronov.
Great. And where can they get the book?
On Amazon. And now I'm working on a deluxe edition. I'm going to include 2 more chapters into it. And hopefully this version will be in offline stores.
That is wonderful. And I hope you come back and talk about the 2 chapters.
Okay.
Leo, besides having written this book and given Sally her go-ahead to write her screenplay, you've spent so much time with us, have helped our writers out there, and I just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap for the Writers Hangout. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please take a moment to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Your positive feedback will help us keep the show going so we can continue bringing you more future episodes. Remember, keep writing. The world needs your stories. The Writers Hangout is sponsored by the Page International Screenwriting Awards with executive producer Kristin Overn, producers Sandy Adomaitis, and myself, Terry Sampson. And our music is composed by Ethan Stoller.